Friends, welcome. In this video, we will study about the comparative account of vertebral column of vertebrates. Vertebrates are those chordates in which the notochord is replaced by a solid bony structure called vertebral column. Our aim of studying this video is to study the basic plan of vertebral column, comparative survey in fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Major vertebral types, functional interpretation linked with locomotion, and we will study the comparative table. Okay. What actually is the vertebral column? Vertebral column is the dorsal axial support of vertebrates, which is the replacement of notochord. Here you can look the photograph of a vertebral column. Our vertebral column have 5 different regions. Cervical vertebrates, which are 7 in number, denoted as C1 to C7. Thoracic vertebrates, which are 12 in number, denoted as T1 to T12. Lumbar vertebrates, which are the heaviest vertebrates, called L1, L2, L3, L4 and L5. Sacrum, which are fused, these are 5 vertebrates. Coccyx, further fused, 4 vertebrates. This is the basic plan of mammalian vertebrates. The main function of vertebrates are the protection of spinal cord. Spinal cord is one of the most important part of the nerve system. Vertebrates protect the spinal cord, which runs from brain to the tail region. Okay. Beside this, it will support the head and trunk, muscle attachment, and transmission of body force during the movement. In higher tetrapods, vertebral column becomes regionally specialized. 5 different regions are there, as we just told you. Cervical region, that is the neck bones. Thoracic region, that is the bones of thoracic cavity, vertebrates of thoracic cavity, through which the ribs can get attached. Lumbar, sacral and caudal parts. Atlas and axis, these are the anterior-most bones of the cervical, anterior-most vertebrae of the cervical. It will help to improve the skull mobility in amniotes. Amniotes are those organisms that have amniotic membranes. Different regions of vertebrates in higher vertebrates are cervical vertebrates. These are the vertebrates of the neck region. These provides head mobility. Ribs are not present here in the most of the tetrapods. Thoracic bones are the rib-bearing trunk vertebrae linked to respiration and support of thoracic cage. Lumbar vertebrae are the heaviest one. These are 5 in number. These are ribless vertebrae. These strengthen the posterior trunk in many tetrapods. Sacral vertebrae are the pelvic vertebrae that articulate with the girdle and transmit propulsive forces. Coccyx, also called caudal tail series, important in balance, swimming, propulsion, and sport. In birds, crocodiles, lizards, and mammals, these show 5 regions clearly, whereas in fishes and many amphibians, they will display less regional differentiation. We have 5 different centrum types. Centrum refers to the central solid cylindrical shaped body of vertebrate. It acts as the primary weight-bearing part of the bony spinal column, located ventrally. Ventrally means towards the belly side. The centrum protects the spinal cord and provides structural support for the trunk. There are 5 different centrum types. One is amphicoelous, in which both the ends are concave. Because of the ends are concave, it are much flexible, much common in fishes, permits flexibility with persistent notochordal tissue. Procellus type centrum is anterior concave, posterior convex, commonly found in the reptiles and allows flexible joints. Ophistosceles type centrum is anterior convex, posterior concave. It is present in many amphibians and reptiles. Ascellus type is both the ends is flat, typically in mammals, best for weight bearing and have intervertebral discs. Other is heterocellus type centrum. It is a saddle-shaped articulation characteristic of birds and gives great neck flexibility without twisting. Vertebral column of fishes is the least differentiated and usually divided into trunk and caudal regions rather than the 5 regions of the omnivores. Fishes have only 2 regions. Centra are commonly amphicoelous and notochord may persist between the vertebrae. Neural arches protect the spinal cord. Hemal arches in caudal vertebrae protect caudal blood vessels. Ribs are associated with trunk vertebrae, while tail vertebrae support propulsion during the swimming. Here is the skeletal system of the fish. You can see the vertebral column of fish. Okay. In amphibians, they show greater regionalization than fishes, usually with one cervical vertebra called atlas and one sacral vertebra. Here in this image, purple colored first bone is atlas, the only cervical bone, and this blue color is sacral vertebra, the only sacral bone. Coccyx bones, caudal bones are fused this rod-like structure called urostyle. In frogs, the trunk is short and tail region is reduced, with posterior vertebrae fused into a rod-like urostyle. Vertebral centra may be procellus, ophistocellus, or amphicoelous, depending on the type of group. The column is adapted for jumping or walking rather than continuous axial undulations. Let me talk about the vertebral column of reptiles. In reptiles, atlas and axis are well developed and permit up, down, and sideways movement of the skull. Thoracic vertebrae bear single-headed ribs. Lumbar differentiation varies among the groups. Pelvic and tail region have typically 2 sacral vertebrae fused with pelvis. Caudal vertebrae often carry chevrons below. Chevrons are the V-shaped bony structures. Reptilian vertebrae are commonly procellus, though variation exists. The vertebral column is stronger and more regionalized than the amphibians. In birds, the avian vertebral column is extremely specialized for flight, combining rigidity of the trunk with high mobility of neck. Means the vertebrae of the trunk region are rigid, less flexible, much fused. So the vertebral column of trunk region, that is sacrum, lumbar, and thoracic bones are fused. So these are called the synsacrum. And neck region, cervical bones are more flexible. The atlas is ring-like and the cervical vertebrae are heterocellus, allowing flexible feeding and grooming movements. Thoracic and lumbar sacral regions are extensively fused, as I told just now, to form a strong synsacrum. Synsacrum is the fused thoracic, lumbar, and sacral regions, reducing trunk flexion during flight and landing. Only the precaudal vertebrae remain mobile. Terminal caudal fuse into pygostyle in many modern birds. In mammals possesses the most clearly defined 5 regions of vertebral column: cervical region, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and caudal region. The cervical region have 7 constant number of bones, though neck length varies greatly. As we can say that giraffe is the longest neck, still they have a 7 number of cervical bones. Thoracic vertebrae carry ribs. Lumbar vertebrae are massive and ribless. Sacral vertebrae fuse into sacrum, articulate with the pelvis. Centra are mainly acillous, and intervertebral discs allow support plus controlled flexibility on length. Let we look into a comparative summary. Main regions. Fishes have only 2 main regions, trunk and caudal. Amphibians have 4 main regions, cervical, trunk, sacral, and caudal. Reptiles have all the 5 regions, cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and caudal. Birds have cervical, thoracic, synsacral, and caudal regions, and mammals have all the 5 regions, that is cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and caudal regions. Centrum type is amphicoelous in fishes. It is variable in amphibians, often procoelous in reptiles. Heterocoelous neck is present in the birds, and acillous with intervertebral discs present in the mammals. Sacral vertebrae are absent in fishes. 1 is present in amphibians. Usually 2 is present in reptiles, and is fused with lumbar caudal into synsacrum in birds. There are several sacral vertebrae, usually 5 in mammals. The main function of vertebral column is to protect the spinal cord. Besides this, other major function is swimming propulsion in fishes, support for limbs and jumping in amphibians, stronger land support and head mobility in reptiles, flight rigidity and flexible neck in birds, weight bearing and versatile locomotion in mammals. Evolutionary trend is, if we talk about the regionalization, the axial skeleton progresses from weak trunk tail division in fishes to differentiated 5 regions columns in the mammals. For terrestrial sport, all vertebrates invaded land from the water. Sacral attachment, zygapophysis, and stronger centra improved support against the gravity. For functional specialization, birds evolved rigidity for flight, mammals evolved stable yet flexible lumbar support, amphibians retained simpler axial planes. Here is the graph of relative values of semantic teaching indicators to compare dominant biochemical roles of vertebral column in major vertebrates. Beside the function of protection of spinal cord, the other major function in vertebral column is 95% in aquatic axial propulsion in fishes, in birds, neck flexibility, in mammals, pelvic force transfer, trunk rigidity for flight in birds, and jump support in frogs. At last, we can say that vertebral column changes from simple flexible axis in fishes to strongly regionalized support system in birds and mammals. In this video, we study the comparative explains how vertebrate adapt to swimming, jumping, crawling, flying, and weight-bearing locomotions. Okay, thanks.